and we can begin today's session. So the Accelerator impact measurement theme is also about halfway through. Today is our seminar. Just going to run through some basic housekeeping rules and what we're here for today. So as always, when you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. And, oh, sorry, just going to check the chat real quick. Okay, yeah, no worries. So just one of the participants has to drop off early, so she was just letting me know. And yes, since it's being recorded, you'll have access to it later. So as always, put yourself on mute when you're not speaking. Feel free to ask as many questions and as many comments. So take yourself off mute when you would like to, or put it in the chat. If you want to see everyone's faces, then just click the gallery view. And then we've already agreed that we're going to be recording the session. So first things first, where we're at today in this thematic session on impact measurement is that so far we have had a good conversation with each of you on where you're currently at. There was an ask around everyone sharing some of their breadth of data, and almost everyone has submitted answers. And the goal of that exercise was just to see what are the data points that you are currently collecting, and what are you finding challenging to sort of wrap your head around and have data for. The next step was to ask everyone to map out their theory of change for each of your organizations. And we do have 6 of you who have submitted. In case you have not had a chance to submit, perhaps some of the conversation that we have today will create some inspiration for you to take that next step and come up with your theory of change. Our next webinar is technically supposed to be on the 27th of June, and we have 2 amazing global organizations and speakers who are lined up to speak at that session. Someone from the Impact Management Project, which we haven't really dug into as much. I believe Akina did go through it on the venture webinar to some extent, but we will have a speaker from that organization, as well as someone from B-Lab. I see Alia is on the call, and as you guys know, Spring is a certified B Corp, and so we thought it would be, and the reason I mentioned Alia and Instella is because they are in the process of exploring B Corp certification for themselves as an organization, and so I wanted to have that perspective shared in this session as well, because the B-Lab and B Corporation has an expanding impact measurement framework and movement that is more explicitly incorporating the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're meant to hear from both those speakers on the 27th of June. And I just realized I don't have my video. I'm sorry about that. What I just wanted to ask everyone who is on the call is that given the high-profile speakers, the content matter, are you all able to commit to being online on the 27th of June? Because what we have been told by the FI team is that there's been, you know, it's capacity, it's scheduling, people are not sure if they're able to join a call, etc. I just want to make sure that if we have live speakers a month from now who are making the time to come and share their perspectives and frameworks, at least for the 6 of you who are on the call, are you able to commit to being there on the 27th of June? Maybe a quick show of hands.
Yes, for me.
Okay. Good for Moon, yeah. Everybody else, feel free to either put it in chat. So Abby says she will miss it. She'll be at a festival. Abby, what's the festival? Can we join? And May as well, Alia. Okay, great. So I think that's helpful for me to know. And maybe what I would appreciate your support around is that If you know, if you have been speaking to other cohort members, I'm going to open up the session to people who are not necessarily in this theme, because I think that they're valuable approaches that other people can focus on too. So maybe once we do, just feel free to share it out within the FI cohort, and then we can stick to having a live session. All right, so thank you to everybody for confirming that. I'm just going to go back to this little deck. And again, as I mentioned, unfortunately, Nicola had a family emergency. Her mother was unwell, and so she has had to run to the hospital to be with her. And Clemmy as well is tied up with a meeting. Let's see if she's able to plug in a little bit later. So we're just going to dive in today. And before I do that, I just wanted to pause and ask, does anybody have any reflections or questions or comments on anything that I've covered so far? Or how are you feeling about this theme in general? Or yeah, just any reflections and comments that you have, feel free to share either through chat or take yourself off mute as is best for you. All good? Okay. Okay, well, if any reflections come to mind, feel free to dive in. So today the purpose is, it's more of a guided seminar. So our intention by the end of our time together today is that we have a few of the orgs who have submitted their theory of changes as an organization that they have drafted. So I have 6 that were submitted, and except for Rise, the rest of you are on the call. So what I think would be great is we can take 10 minutes for each of the 5, excuse me, and have you share what was your experience like in coming up with this theory of change for your organization? What was your thought process? How did you, what was the method that you did this? Was it individually? Did you do it as a team? What did it make you think about? What are some of your unanswered questions? How do you feel this will help you move on to some next steps around creating an impact framework, measurement and management framework for your organization? So just some open sharing on what the experience was like, how it's going to help you, and where do you stand. So I have linked the 5, and I say 5 because Rise is not able to be on the call, that are here, and all of you who submitted are here. So does anyone feel compelled to go first, or shall we just go in the order that's listed on the slide? So that would be Impact Hub first, unless somebody else wants to dive in. Abby, you good to kick in?
Yes, happy
Okay.
to.
Okay, so I'm just going to pull it up. So hopefully, can everyone see this diagram on Impact Hub Phnom Penh's theory of change? Yeah, okay. So yeah, Abby, just walk us through what that experience was like for you. How involved was the team? What are some of the challenges? And I think maybe if you can also, because as you guys who are on the last session where we had a spring Akina Foundation and Abby share the impact frameworks, you had mentioned having done a theory of change as one of your initial steps too. So maybe a little bit of what that experience was like before and how this one has been for you, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the experience before. So when we did it the first time around, it was mostly just me and one other colleague, Olivia, who's the managing director. So we didn't involve the whole team in that process. We yeah, we sort of, we did a couple of kind of sessions together where we, I'm trying to remember now, where we sort of did a, I guess, a mini workshop, if anyone is in the ones with Clemmy as well. We did like an informal version of that. So we went kind of through the columns and wrote out everything that we could think of, and then we made it a little bit more coherent and brought it all together.
Yeah.
This one is kind of covering everything that we do. So when I sort of basically went back to the same one when we're revisiting it again for this project, and I just went back and I kind of looked over it, made some updates, moved some things around, but I didn't start from scratch or do anything drastic. So I think what it brought up was that we need to do theories of change that are a bit more specific to the different elements of what we do, and then also a bit more up to date, because this one is from about maybe 9 months ago. So there are some activities that we are doing now that we weren't doing back then.
Yeah.
And in terms of the process for that, like for me, it was really helpful to have all of these outcomes written down, and then I could think about one by one what was the best way to measure it in terms of could we be gathering that information ourselves, or would we need to do a survey to get it? So then each of those outcomes kind of had another, in a different document, each of those outcomes had something else next to it that was saying how we're going to test that, and what question would we ask, and the details of that. What were your other questions?
Just where do you think this process now will help you go next, and what remains a challenge?
So I think next it will be about kind of bringing in the whole team and using it for the new activities that we are doing, and making sure that we do use it rather than just kind of steaming ahead with new projects, not having kind of considered the theory of change for it. Partly just so that the team can like check that we're all on the same page, and when we do go ahead with those projects, that we can be measuring whether they're working, because they're really acting as like pilots. So it's so important that we know if it's something that we should be doing more of in the future or not. Challenges. I mean, I found it challenging doing it for the kind of covering the whole organization, because it was difficult to not go into too much detail and to distinguish between the different activities and what they're impacting. So I think it will be good to split some of that stuff out.
And so maybe what might be helpful is, in just a couple of minutes, could you share with the group about how you went from issue, and there's a bunch of issues that you have mentioned. If you were to be a little bit more succinct about which is the core sort of issue, like what would you focus on?
I would say for us it's the young population and poor job opportunities for educated young people. Just having another look at it.
Yeah, no worries.
And then also the limited support for that's available in entrepreneurships, both like in terms of the number of people that can access it, and the geography that it's available, the language that it's available in. Those are the main issues for us.
And then if you think about the activities that you guys offer, is it like a match between, so for instance, for job opportunities, did you tie it up then with incubation programs, or is that just a list of all the different activities? And would it have been helpful for you to have a match for each?
Yeah, so at the moment that's just a list.
Yeah.
There's not much like thread going across the columns, which I think is why it's useful to kind of separate them out. I think trying to do it in here could just get messy and like be difficult to interpret.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we have them for each kind of different, which we do already, we have it for online courses and incubation programs, for example.
Right.
So yeah, once we have like revisited that, it would be good to have a bit more of a thread that runs through it. Because also what I haven't done is looked at how short leads to medium leads to long-term outcomes. It's, yeah, at the moment it's very much just a list.
Yeah. And then did you want to talk a little bit about what you were trying to get at with the whole attribution and contribution element?
Yeah, so I guess this was just kind of like I just assigned them myself in terms of which ones I thought we could attribute to our activities directly and which ones we kind of contributed to as part of a wider ecosystem that was influencing these outcomes.
Yeah.
So I think, and generally the short-term outcomes tend to be more attribution and the longer-term ones tend to be more contribution. So yeah, with attribution, you ideally can say like, if there's an increase in this soft skill or in this technical knowledge, we can attribute that to the training that we ran or the mentoring that they received. Yeah. And how you actually, as Sana commented on it, asking is how do you actually measure whether it's attribution rather than contribution is not, we don't do that. It kind of, that would require quite intensive and thorough measurement, which we don't kind of do at the moment.
Yeah.
Think about.
What I was going to ask is, does anybody have questions for Abby on the thought process? Is this just some feedback? That would be great, because the goal here today is not to say, hey, there's no right or wrong. It's just everyone is going to have a different approach, and we want to try and be as inclusive of all the different ways to do this. So does anybody have any thoughts? And you can always just put it in the chat too if something comes to mind. Okay, we have people are possibly digesting for now. So, and Abby, we've obviously had some back and forth, as have each of you, given we've been commenting directly into the documents. So I think for me, just looking about how this can help you simplify things going forward is just making the issue side of things a little bit leaner, because I think that some of that is probably contextual, that contributes to the sort of core problem that you're trying to solve. And so I liked when you said that one of the issues, and Uzair, you will resonate with this conversation, because when we talked with Takhliq about their theory of change as well, there were lots of different problem areas, and it was about really like trimming it down to what's a more, the core of the issue. I think, Abby, for the participant side of things, one way to tally up the participant and the activities, and as you said, you've done already with the incubation and online courses, is that you have an individual theory of change for each of those. And so that could be, for everybody on the call, as you think about your organization, it's the sum of the small parts. And so drafting out this kind of visual map for each of those different activities, each of which has its own outputs and outcomes, and how hopefully they all start to contribute to the same impact. And then, you know, that can help you get really a lot more detail. I think on the outcomes, and Abby, like as a next step for our support with you on this is that maybe if you can share that underlying data and what that looks like, and the process that you use around getting to those metrics, that could be a helpful way for us to figure out, is this like what does the process look like, and then is it feasible, is it not? Because one of the things that I want everybody to have as a takeaway is that you should like, especially at the stage that most of us are at, anywhere between 0 to 5 years, maybe some are a little bit more, like BRAC, for instance, you have a different sort of track record, but you want to keep it simple, because yes, things will evolve as you grow, but let's try and start simple. And so even if there's like 3 outcomes in the short term that you measure really well, that's a lot better than trying to do 10 that are not measured and reported on very well. I just also wanted to highlight that I really, on the impact side of things, like that statement around building an innovation and impactful Cambodia through entrepreneurship, like that resonates with me, because it has all the different aspects on what you're really trying to do. I just wonder on that impact statement, do you need the element of youth in there? Because that's something that is important. And I don't know, Abby, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, I think it might be worth adding that, because that's definitely a focus.
Yeah.
Like that's a kind of target audience.
Yeah.
We do work with over 30. The majority are under 30.
Mm-hmm. I think you should stew over that and maybe think about this as this is where we are today. In 5 years, will we be just as focused on youth? And of course, you know, we will reiterate this exercise as things change, etc. But just maybe that's a conversation I think definitely to have with the team. So thank you very much, Abby, for being the first and for sharing. And of course, if any questions come to mind, please keep them to ask Abby. And so next on the list is Aulia. Aulia, I will request you to take yourself off mute, because I'm just going to share your theory of change that we also have recently discussed on our mentorship call. But it would be good, same sort of question for you. I put the wrong file. Okay, so just give me a second to pull it up. What was that experience like for you? Has it been helpful? What are some of the remaining questions? Yeah, be good if you can walk us through that.
Sure, thanks Sana for the opportunity. So we done the theory of change for Instellar is for first time with other team with different division. So we did the first draft of this theory of change just 1 hour because we did it for 2 versions of theory of change. We start the first draft is will from the impact and then the second type is from the resource or activities. So yeah, it's quite helpful for us because we just understand what the logic of our activities actually, because we haven't have opportunity to create the theory of change for Instellar. So we just did the activities without any without define the output or outcomes. Then yeah, from that exercise we found that our outcomes is it's too much, and we try to find the outcomes and impact based on our installer like blueprint before, like Romy as a CEO create bore the installer has established. So yeah, it's easy for us to start the exercise from the impact, because yeah, it's easy to start with what we wanted to achieve as an organization.
Yeah.
So yeah, for our impact is all businesses run with social responsibility and driven by impact, and we break down to the outcomes, to the output, and yeah, then we define the activity that link to the outcomes. For yeah, that's it's just finished 1 week 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we will iterate with other team that haven't involved yet. So yeah, that's the next for us in Installer.
So maybe, oh, and I forgot to put my timer on. I'm trying to make sure that everybody gets the same time. For this experience, Alia, like, sounds like, you know, some of the visioning work that was done before helped start the conversation. What about, you know, because under the impact column, you have that one statement. What are some of these other yellow markers that you have? And did that help come up with that final statement? Or, so that's one question. And then the other is that the format that you've used is quite more visual. Like, did that help to get the team thinking about this in a different way? And have you guys done like an in-person session as a team? Maybe just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like. And maybe, I think if it's helpful, you can talk about the experience with the Akina Foundation when they were on site as well, and how maybe some of their support helped with this process as well.
Yeah, so we did this with Akina recommendation to start thinking to create the theory of change for rising, actually, not for installer.
Right.
And then we schedule a time to exercise, to draft for incubation program and also for installer. So we use post-it notes to so everyone have their idea. And as I said before, we divide two groups, who started from the impact and then from who started from the resource. So we combine the draft for each group and see what actually so they did the like presentation for the draft. And so we give comment for each group, and then we decide this one is more makes sense for us, and we put on the Excel with actually the same word with the what other team put in the post-it.
Right.
So so we need to iterate this, because some word is like unicorn or and actually the impact, the right all business are run with social responsibility is for it's actually come because it's stated in our blueprint, actually a social as installer have. I mean, it's the vision of installer actually stated in the company profile.
Just give me 1 sec. I'm just trying to.
Hello. I can't hear.
Sorry, I'm just typing a message to Mai because she's leaving. I just wanted to, Mai, if you're still on the call, I just wanted to say that it would be good if you can book some time to go through your theory of change, because I think that just, based of course on today's seminar, but it would be helpful for you and the team to get some support on really getting a bit more clear on that. So just reach out to me separately for us to make some time to chat. Sorry, Ali, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
no worries.
okay, so you recognize the need to reiterate the fact. I think what's really good sharing on your part is also the fact that this was a team effort. I think the trigger about thinking from a program perspective and the work that Akina was able to support you in person has been, helpful to make this sort of come together. I think in our call, one of the recommendations that I had was for you guys to have the theory of change for each program, or just the incubation program, as a way to kind of check, okay, what we're saying on a program level, is it also consistent with what we're saying at an organization level? Because this is also something that Abby brought up, like you can use this tool to help you make strategic decisions, and then just see whether, okay, this is really the impact we're looking to have. Does this new initiative allow us to do that, or is it some kind of distraction, or what could we be doing better, etc.? So it would be helpful to see the two. As we move on, I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about, because we had this conversation around the output and outcomes and what was feasible. So do you want to maybe share a little bit on how you're going to go from just looking at those output level data to actually understanding the outcomes a bit more?
Yes, so from the output, we actually it starts from the activities. We divide. We understand that we have three main activities, which is acceleration, alliance, and advisory. Then from the activities, we divide. The more quick output from that activities is like acceleration and alliance and advisory too. And for the outcomes, we have a challenge to measure what or prioritize what actually the outcomes from our activities, from our three activities. Like,
yeah. Does anybody else have those same challenges? Do we want to share what has worked for us, or what you're thinking about? Anybody on the call? So if I may, wait, I think we have someone in the chat. Oh, Sarah says we're good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is an interesting one for us to dig into, because as we mentioned before, outputs in general, like whether it is through data that we collect ourselves, either through our own sort of CRM or other data management process, those tend to be relatively straightforward, right? Because we know that we ran a program, and so how many entrepreneurs went through that program, it's clear to kind of see. For outcomes, that's where it might be more either survey or a conversation that we have, and really tracking. So for instance, on the one that a lot of us use is increased entrepreneurial mindset, or like increased business skills, etc. So it's hard to say that we can, maybe you could do it like this, where when an entrepreneur enters the program, you do kind of like a a check with them on how they're feeling, how confident they're feeling in their business skills when they start the program. So on a scale of 1 to 10, are they at, let's say, 3? And then we do that same questionnaire halfway through the program. And if they're at 5, okay, we know we're making some progress. And then the same at the end of the program and 6 months after. So that type of sort of comparative analysis can help us understand, well, what's that shift then in mindset? And I'm using a very simple thread. Of course, if you were to think about entrepreneurial mindset, there's like data and research out there about what the components are. Or an alternative is that we say we choose to make it a lot more qualitative. And so we just do a survey of our founders when they start the program, and then we check with them 6 months or a year later. So for example, in this case, when we were producing, excuse me, Spring's Impact Report last year, the way that we talked about improved business life skills was not in a quantitative way, but was more in a storytelling way. And so just having spotlights with the entrepreneurs who had been through 1, 2 other programs to get them to share their experience and what that had meant to them as business and from a life perspective. So that's a very qualitative way. It's not necessarily a quantitative scoring. So and we also acknowledge that this is just a good first attempt, because ideally we want to have the ability to look at pre, before, after, have comparative sort of analytics and data. But with the data that we had, it would have been hard for us to measure that and share that out very easily. And so we decided to do more quantitative reporting on outputs, and then the outcomes was more qualitative. So what I want to leave you with is that it's about starting with something that helps you communicate the change you're having. And if it's not perfect the first time, you still have to get the process going. So I hope, I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments, or, but just keep that in mind, that it's important to map out these outputs, to also think about how you might measure the outcomes, but to make sure that it's simple and feasible enough.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Any other thoughts or comments before we move on? Okay, so we don't have cases left. We're going to move on to Brack, to Salman. I'm just going to open this. Okay, so Salman, you're up. Do you want to walk us through your process and you and the teams on creating this theory of change for Brack? And maybe actually, Salman, it would be helpful, because you mentioned that this is for the proposed Brack incubation unit. So can you give us some context, like about Brack as an organization and how this fits in, and is it being run completely separately? So just maybe a little bit of context, and then you can share with us. I can see that you used the Gali template, which had broken things down into pre and post programs. So if you can kick off with some context, and then we can dive into the process. Salman is off mute, so we'll give him a second. Are you still able to hear us, Salman?
So are you guys hearing me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, so initially, I mean, we started off our, incubation program with some very early stage entrepreneurs from their idea stage. Actually, when it was kind of an innovation challenge, so it's more like a innovation challenge competition through which we crowdsource some ideas and later give them some kind of incubation support. So that was a part of called urban innovation challenge. So as you guys know that we are an NGO, so we have a urban development program. So one of the mandate was to create more problem solvers in the urban space. So for that, we created that, Urban Innovation Challenge, and through which we have supported around 10 entrepreneurs who are, social entrepreneurs. They have business ideas, but, mostly, social impact driven. So based on our experiences, we have found that, okay, the entrepreneurship ecosystem is growing at a very, faster rate. And also there are a lot of incubators and accelerators. They are also coming up because of the active entrepreneurial ecosystem. So we thought that let's take a pause now after two years of running these kind of ideation based challenge, and then comes this Frontier Incubators program, where we really wanted to focus on a separate unit where we can provide different kind of support. So we thought that from BRAC's perspective, what are our strength point? So then we figured out that, okay, we have got some sector experts, because if you really want to say incubate in a
I think we lost you for a second. Salman, we'll just wait for you to come back. You dropped off for a second. I think you're still online, but we can't hear you again. Oh. Salman, we can't hear you still. Guys, I'm just going to message him to see. Sorry, folks, we seem to have, he's still online, but we can't hear him. I just have messaged you, Salman, to see maybe if you want to dial back in, because we cannot hear you. Okay, I'm going to give Salman some time to just figure out what's happening on the technical side of things. Azar, I may ask you to step in here for us to go through your theory of change in the meantime. So,
yeah, sure.
yeah, I'm just
So,
just give me a sec. I just want to
yeah, sure.
get out of this because, yeah, 1 second. So we have the okay. So hopefully Salman, yes, he is just coming back online. Okay, so we'll just switch gears. So I know, sorry for the disruption, folks. We'll give Salman his time when he's back. And maybe, yes, Azar, in the meantime, if you can talk about your mapping, and Abby, you'll notice that the framework and the table that you shared is a template that I shared with the Takhliq folks. And so thank you for creating a table for us. But they found it helpful to start their journey on this. So yeah, Azar, same question for you. What was that experience like for you and Bilal? I mean, Takhliq as well is fairly young and new. So how did mapping out this process go for you both? And thinking about the long-term impact, just walk us through your experience.
Yeah, okay. So before I start with that, let me give you, all of you a local context. Since Pakistan has a very large amount of young population, and somewhere around 30% of them are from between 15 to 29 years old. Takhliq is basically a university incubator. We are based inside a university. It's a private for-profit university, and the idea is to inculcate this entrepreneurial mindset among the student body, number one, and then in turn, getting good quality sustainable startups out from the student body. So we're not really focused only on a student body. We generally incubate startups from outside also, just to keep a balance of that. Regarding this theory of change, so most of these ideas were somewhere in our heads once we were discussing how to plan in the planning stage, and designing our curriculum and incubation program. But this really helped us to jot down everything that was in our heads to actually in a table which was very structured table with this short term and medium term and long term outcome, which actually gave us an insight and altered view of our things. Talking about the problems again, just like any developing country like Pakistan would have, we have very high unemployment, and one of the major, things you would see is that there's quite a significant disconnect between the academia and the industry. So the industry working, since we were not an export-based economy, we have generally get all the technology and all the products from mostly all the products from outside the country. So generally, the research part is not, our industry does not depend on our academia, which is something that we need to change. It's about time that we start looking and, connecting these two pillars of the economy to start working. So, yeah, these are one of the two major problems that we are facing. As far as the activities are concerned, so I said our audience is mostly UCB students, but generally as an ecosystem, so Pakistan has this very nascent entrepreneurial ecosystem. Like around 6-7 years ago, the first incubator that really took place, it was a government funded incubator, and that kickstarted the ecosystem. So now we see a lot of incubators all around the country trying to play their part. Some of them are at the accelerator stage, and some of them are the pre-idea stage. So we come in, since we recently launched and started, so we are at the idea stage at the moment. And so addressing these issues and problems, I think one of the major things that we would do is, as we have mentioned, the activities. So a very thorough incubation program that gives all the basis of starting up a business, and all those the problems that entrepreneurs locally face over here in Pakistan. Outreach activities and capacity building stuff. That is what we do. And the second part of it is the innovation competitions and this FIP to MVP. So FIP is basically final-year project to MVP that we have designed this program. So since we are based inside the university, so a lot of students, mostly all the students, they go through this final-year project program in the last semesters. So these projects are generally built and designed, and they are printed, binded, and then pasted in the library. That's all that happens with them. So we kind of envision to change that, and plan to commercialize these projects, and if there's a potential for them to actually go into the market and build a team around it and start executing those projects, that would be good. And again, this would link to the disconnect between the industry and academia. Most of the FFPs would be triggered, and most of the FFPs would be motivated by the feedback that we get from the industry. And all these outreach activities that we do would be between the industry and academia. So yeah, short-term out goals again: increased entrepreneurial mindset, increased technical competence for founders, system, create stable startups to start with, and just start at least 5% of the students who are actually working on their final year projects to start looking at commercializing it and start working on that. And the league is here to help them in any way that possible to get it. Going forward, medium goals to create sustainable companies, and long term would be to big companies that create a high value employment. And now this links with our main problem of being the unemployment part of it. So we always say that we really want our students to not only be job seekers once they graduate. They should be able to be creating jobs, be job creators. So most of the universities they design these students the 4 years undergraduate program. We this thing is being instilled into our heads that yes, you're going out and you'll be working with some organization, working in some organization. So we kind of change that mindset, and they can do their own stuff also. And yeah, this is what more or less what it is. So it was all in our heads, and we were settled around, and now we have this year changes really helped us to put things mapped down.
Yeah, I mean, I think thank you so much for sharing your experience. And I might ask, like, of the activities that you do currently, do you do all of them, or are some of them things that you're thinking about?
No, we do all of them. It's the FFP to MVP program that we are about to start.
Okay.
Other than this, all of the activities are in, like I said, then it's innovation competition that we're just conducting next month. Yeah. So yeah, that's what's happening.
And then Zara, we can of course talk about this more on our call later when we do our regular mentorship call. But I think similar to what we talked about with Abby, and I know that, for instance, Instella has done this with Akina on their specific program. But maybe as a next step to help you get even more clear, it might be good to see if you can do a mini theory of change for each of those activities. So for example, with that FYP to MVP session, and I think over there you have like a clearer thread of the types of outcomes that you want to see. But as a next step, I think that would be helpful to do, because the theory of change for everyone is a tool. It's at times a visual tool. To your point, I really appreciated this, Sarah, how you said so much of this is just in your heads, like you've been having these conversations at a strategic level, and helping put it down on paper just helps to make you just put it down. So that's a good part of this process. But really, to give it more depth and reality is to think, okay, now that we've mapped this out, how much of this can we actually bring to life? And so if you do it at a program or activity level, then we can also see, well, what are the outputs that you're measuring, and then how is that helping us come up with the outcomes? Does anybody have any other feedback or comments for Uzair? And Abby, I might pick on you on this only because there are clear similarities in terms of the youth population, that both you're focusing on Cambodia and then in Pakistan. And of course, there's other dynamics, but given the sort of segment is similar, do you have any thoughts or comments or feedback for how the team at Takhliq, which is fairly young and new, what has worked for you in your impact management process that can be tips that Uzair and Bilal can use as they come up with their framework?
Yeah, sure. I guess I can think of some quite practical things just with impact management with young people would be kind of, yeah, making it as straightforward and fun as possible. So what we do is at the end of each of our program, we have like a sort of celebration to mark the occasion that they've completed a program and they've had a demo day or something. So it's a huge achievement. We get everyone together and we use that as also a time to get them to complete the post-program survey and also have like a more open discussion about their feedback. Because it's good for us to complement the survey feedback with having a conversation, because sometimes if it's especially true with young people, but they don't want to maybe give they don't give such long answers or such constructive feedback when they're writing it down. So kind of having the opportunity to draw it out of them a bit more is really good.
Yeah.
We also do the pre-program survey during the first workshop. So everyone is kind of sat down at the same time doing it. People can ask questions because a lot of the time they're not too clear, like they haven't really completed or answered questions like the ones we're asking. So we can be on hand to explain what we mean by certain things. I also use Typeform because you can put lots of like GIFs and make it personalized, and it's just a very user-friendly program. Yeah, that's kind of what's on the top of my head in terms of the impact management with young people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And hopefully, Azara, it gives you some ideas as well. If I can chip in, like with Spring's audience, we have had people, maybe not, sometimes we've had people as young as 18. We don't necessarily focus on like university level students, but maybe like 22 and above. Our audience will go up all the way to like 45 even, so it's a bit broader. And that's of course context specific. But one of the things or challenges that we would find is that even with the Typeform, it was really about getting people to do a survey at the same time. Usually what happens is that if you send it after the program finishes and then you kind of have to chase people to do that, it's not fun for anybody. It's more helpful to do it in person when they're with you. And at times, what we have found is even more valuable is to actually have a paper worksheet, literally, like, what's your experience? And add a comment. Like sometimes that's been really helpful for us. That depends. That's usually more on like events and things like that, where you're just looking for kind of high level feedback. And Abby, I really liked what you mentioned also with just that blend between the quantitative and the qualitative, like really getting people's experience is something that you can draw out a bit more with a conversation. So thinking about what format is going to work to make that happen. And maybe if not everybody can be there at those sort of celebration events, just maybe having like a mini roundtable with some participants and just, you know, getting their feedback. And of course, addressing some of these impact areas, that could be another way. So just some ideas for you to think about, Azara. And then of course we'll chat a little bit more about this in our mentor call as well.
Sure, yeah. So just to add into it, we already have planned the demo day since because this is the first cycle. So actually, this is the second cohort, second cycle of our incubation program, but this is the most structured one. So demo day definitely planned for that. And regarding your feedback part, so we do have this process of conducting post-session feedback. So every session that we conduct, so we have kind of a Google form sheet, that we have placed, and we have asked generic questions and just to get the feedback on. And regarding other things, since Pakistan is very high on food, so we always get all these sessions on over pizza and over the local desi kind of food. So yeah, we talk about this in the casual way also.
Nice. Yeah, that's really good. And maybe you should send us some of those nice samosas and all the yummy food.
Sure. Yeah, sure, definitely.
Maybe after Ramadan, because
yeah, of course.
Okay, no, thank you for that. And Salman, I don't know if you are able to speak now. I see that you have dialed back in. We just couldn't hear you before, and that's why I moved on to Takhliq. And if you're able to take yourself off mute, then we can dig back into your theory of change. Yeah, I think Salman, unfortunately, we're not able to hear you. Wait, oh, maybe
Yeah,
now.
hi,
Okay.
hi, Sana.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you. Yes. Sorry to have cut you off before,
Very
but we just
sorry.
lost you.
Very sorry for the disruption,
That's
for
okay.
just poor internet service. So let me start. Let me give you a background.
Yes.
I guess I have covered something that BRAC itself is an NGO where we have got some core development programs, and in our incubation experience so far, we worked with very early stage urban entrepreneurs who came from a very ideation stage, and later we give them kind of a 6-month long incubation support. And also BRAC has a separate investment committee, so some of them also received investment, follow on investment after that initial incubation support.
Okay.
So I mean, we also thought of that at the time when Bangladesh just gone through that kind of nascent in entrepreneurial ecosystem. A lot of private sectors, government, a lot of external incubators, accelerators, they are also jumping in to activate the ecosystem right now. So we thought it's a good time also to reflect on our work, and also see whether we can support more extensively to lend our support to these entrepreneurs. And then we figured out, and after working with Vilgo, and we found that if you increase the ticket size, then you can attract larger good entrepreneurs who are about to scale and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also BRAC is also planning to kind of set up an investment fund with a private equity firm called Osiris. So we thought, can we create a bridge between that? I mean, there is a proper investment fund in place. And also, as we also want to get into this incubation space, because we really think that this is another great way to bring impact, which we are interested. And also BRAC is kind of, BRAC's typical development programs are also shifting towards social enterprise. So are you guys with me?
Yes, we are.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so so as we are shifting to that social enterprise space, and there are a lot of good social enterprise which are operating in a country, but they are not getting the right capital to scale up their work and stuff like that. So that's why we thought that if we can create a platform where a growth stage startups or an early stage startup who just have that kind of a product market fit, those teams can apply for our incubation phase. And they can receive some kind of high value per mentorship, technical assistance. BRAC has a huge operation in Bangladesh, so they can also get go to market facilities from our operating areas and stuff like that. So for a year, if we can give them a kind of a ticket size around say 80,000 to 100,000 US dollar ticket size, in the form of, can be debt, can be incubation fee, so it can be different ways of financial instruments there. So in this way we can bring in more impact rather than working with some very early stage ideation stage entrepreneurs.
Okay, So before you move on, Salman, maybe just to clarify for everyone, so BRAC itself is a nonprofit and has been around for, I think, 20, 25 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so what we're talking about right now is almost like its own entrepreneurial venture that will spin out an incubation unit. And the goal here is that you realize the problem that for the early to growth stage ventures, there's not enough capital to help them be catalyzed. And so your program will not only include mentorship and other forms of advisory around the technical side, go to market, but you will also put in some kind of investment into each of these companies, and that could be debt, equity, maybe it covers part of the program, etc. So that's what we're talking about. And so what I wanted to ask is this, because you also mentioned at the front of the call, like your focus is on urban growth stage entrepreneurs. In the context of Bangladesh and where Bangladesh is going, is that one of the core stakeholder segments that is affected when it comes to entrepreneurship? Is it these more urban entrepreneurs, or are there other entities that are serving more rural entrepreneurs, and that's why your focus is on the ones who are in the urban areas? Oh, I hope we didn't.
Can you guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So yeah, we started off with that Urban Innovation Challenge. So we are part of BRAC's, Social Innovation Lab.
Okay.
And also BRAC has an urban development program through which we started off that innovation challenge. But when it comes to this BRAC, incubation unit, it will be a separate, and we will have some kind of sector focus, like say healthcare, education, agriculture, financial inclusion. So these might be our 4 priorities. Here, any early stage early stage startups which are kind of wanting to kind of prove their product market fit, or they are looking for some additional capitals, so they will be eligible to apply here. So our main focus would be to give them a very good, runway support, technical support, and also high-level mentorship support, so that they can just develop a strong proof of concept on their product market fit, and also apply for larger investments. So the main idea is to connect them with some follow-on capitals, some separate investment funds which are typically they are interested to invest in some winning business models. So within this incubation phase, our target would be like that our incubators will be eligible for that. And these, as you are asking, that these ticket size, like if we can give them around say 80,000 to 90,000 US dollar, so that will be in the form of different financial instruments. It can be debt, it can be equity, it can be revenue sharing. So it will be depending on the need of the entrepreneurs. But our main idea is that we want to make them, we want to ensure that these startups can receive some follow-on investments after going through our program.
Yeah, and then maybe if we can talk a little bit about the outcomes that you have identified during the program. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so during the program, main idea is that we will definitely identify some of the risks. Like we will convene different stakeholders and try to figure out what are the risks and stuff like that, and based on that we will create some milestones for those entrepreneurs. At the same time, as we have got some seasoned experts in our organization, we feel that the entrepreneurs will be very happy, will have the opportunity to get more confidence with them, with those experienced mentors. and also strong understanding of the market, because as we have been operating like 40 years in Bangladesh, so we have got a strong understanding about Bangladesh market.
Yeah.
So they can, you know, go and see our operations and get to understand more about the market.
Are you still there, Salman? Seems to have pretty bad connection, unfortunately. Salman, I think we lost you again. So guys, maybe in the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes left. And so Salman, what I might do is, well, hopefully you're able to plug back in and we can hear you. But what I was going to say is that I think based on what you have provided, this reads as more of a theory of change for the program itself. And I think that that's a really good start. I think when it comes to the outcomes, that's where I might challenge you and the team to think a little bit about how you would actually measure and monitor some of that. So for instance, when it comes to more risk identified, is it that you would do a risk assessment at the beginning of the program or at the end of the program and then compare? Or would it actually be better to think of, I don't know, the readiness of the business model and how it looks like, again, pre and post, because there's probably different ways for you to think about the risk, but also on a practical level, how will you actually measure that on an ongoing basis? Just gonna share some feedback too on the framing. If everyone remembers, this sort of time scale and outcomes was a template that was developed by Gali and Andy that we shared in our last session. And the idea here was to kind of really segment what the life cycle of a program, like what are the key activities that happen before something starts, and then what are some of the outcomes and impacts that it has. And so if we move from during the program to 1 year post-program, they have more follow-on investments, more partnerships, connecting with investors, and the outcomes would be increased funding, revenue, venture survival. And so again, Salman and the team at BRAC, it would be good for you to think about, okay, well, how are you gonna really measure and understand whether there was an increase in funding, how much of that is attributed to people being in a BRAC program, like is it, for example, on increased funding, again, you can figure out whether they've raised any money for the business before they started the program versus after they've left, and have those connections come from investors that you have connected the entrepreneurs to. So there's ways for you to kind of really match and measure like what's going on. And that's the next step that I would recommend that you guys do as part of understanding, getting more detailed on this. And then finally, you have just follow-on support as the activity, which would result in more role models, more social impact, increased employment, standard of living, etc. So all of these are really good places to start. I think that, again, this is more at a program level, and in your case, because the program will be the main effort of this incubation unit, that makes sense. I think where you need to start to dig deeper is just on how you'll actually be measuring some of these outcomes and what kind of processes and setup do you need in order to do that. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for just being open, sharing your approaches. I'm glad that the session is being recorded, because just for all of the other cohort who couldn't be on the call, hopefully you will have a chance to listen later and just get some inspiration on how to get going on this process. As you would have seen, like even the visual method that people have done. Their theory of changes is different. There's no right or wrong. I think the goal is really to think about, again, what's the impact you're looking to have? What are the current activities that you do to help serve that impact? What are the outputs? What are the outcomes? And just to line that up, it's helpful to see the different approaches to get you thinking about this and figuring out what might work for you as an organization. So yeah, thank you for being open. Before we just wrap up, I would love to open the floor and ask anybody if they have any questions or comments. Please feel free to put anything that you have in chat, or put yourself off mute and fire away. Keep the chat window open. Everyone's feeling good, maybe a little bit, no? Okay. All right, good to hear that it's good and clear for everyone. And again, the open sharing really helps for everyone to know what you're trying to do. So as we wrap up, you know, feel free, if you haven't had a chance to submit your document, feel free to send that over. Again, apologies on the Akina Foundation side. Nicola, as I mentioned, had to take care of a family emergency, but I will poke both her and Clemmy and see if they had any additional comments that they can share with each of you if you need support as you continue to reiterate. What comes next is that we, as I mentioned, we'll be doing another webinar on the 27th of June. I am just speaking with the speakers later this week, and we'll mention that it will be a small group, but my ask is that even if it's a small group, let's make sure it's super interactive, and we will share it out with other folks in the cohort as well. I'm going to post this in Slack too, but we have 3 remaining sessions after that webinar, and the goal is to just go through data, key challenges, tech platforms and tools. Given that we are, you know, a smaller group, what I might do is, after we host the next webinar in June, that we would just have the remaining 3 sessions as like open office hours, where each of you can come to Clemmy, Nicola, and myself and just kind of walk through what your approach is, what you need help with, and just know that we are there to support you. I'll put that in Slack just so that you can also provide some feedback and let me know if that's going to work for you. But just thinking about what we have left in terms of time and topics, I think the big chunky piece is helping you develop or at least start to map out what your impact management framework could look like, and that might be better served through some more like one-on-one or peer sessions. So if there's any thoughts right now, let me know. If not, then I'll post it in Slack. So I don't see anything. Okay. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Thank you all again for being on the call today, for openly sharing, for taking the time to build out your theory of changes as organizations. Salman, I'm really sorry that you've had these technical difficulties. I think it would be great if you can follow up with me separately, and we can make some time to chat. Appreciate everyone's time. And yeah, any final thoughts from anybody? Feel free to take yourself off mute to say any final words before we wrap up.
Thank you, Sona, for leading today. It was great to hear from everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Abby, and Alia, Uzair. Thank you as well. Any final words?
Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries. Okay, Uzair, we will talk shortly on our mentorship call, and otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day. And thank you again for your time, and we'll talk soon. As always, any questions, please just reach out over Slack.
Great. Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll share the recording too. Take care. Thanks. Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.